It's more and more common these days to actually hear about kids with attention problems and kids who can't sit still, kids that can't focus on their schoolwork, and kids who are actually too distracted to carry out simple, everyday tasks. So why are kids having these issues, and why do they fidget? Well, all kids actually need to move in order to function, because movement is actually how they stay in tune with their surroundings and how they actually learn to regulate their responses to their surroundings. Kids just aren't meant to sit still, and for prolonged periods of time, they're actually built to move and explore and learn while using their whole bodies. When kids are asked to actually remain sitting stationary for extended amounts of time, as often happens during the school day, we start to see behaviors pop up as they try to keep their bodies and their minds alert and focused by stimulating their vestibular, their tactile, their auditory, and proprioceptive systems. So how do they do this? Well, they move and they fidget and they touch and they fiddle with school supplies and they hum and they make other noises and they tap on their desks and they kick their feet. Sound familiar? Well, there is another surprising reason that many children actually fidget and have difficulty focusing on tasks. See, when kids don't have good core muscles, and they don't have good core muscle endurance, they actually struggle with sitting in one position. Kids with weak core muscles also pay so much attention to actually maintaining their functional upright posture that they just don't have a lot of focus left for academic tasks and other tasks of every day. And because they're working so hard on maintaining good posture, these kids often become frustrated and they become agitated. And when presented with what are seemingly simple tasks and activity, they simply just don't have the wherewithal. Kids with weak core muscles often avoid whole body movement activities such as climbing and jumping and team sports because they simply are too challenging. Therefore, these kids are less likely to get the sensory input they need from movement activities, and that can help them regulate their behavior. Now, while there are several reasons why that child may be demonstrating fidgeting behavior, taking a closer look at core strength is often a smart place to start. And research has actually found that moving and fidgeting help students that have attention concerns with memory problems and focus problems and problem solving and other cognitive tasks. So children who have diagnoses like ADD and fidgeting is not necessarily a distraction from learning. In fact, their leg shaking, their finger tapping, their behaviors may be playing a crucial role in their ability to function in the classroom. And that's why we actually brought the Wobble discs in, because we believe that there's a different alternative, there's a better alternative, in a way that on a daily basis we can actually allow these children to be able to experience a way of moving that actually is genetically congruent with how their body was designed to work. And then over these next couple of videos, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing with you how to implement this in your classroom and why it's absolutely critically important, especially with test time coming up there. My name is Dr. TJ Osborne. If you have any questions, please feel free to go to my website, www.drtjosborne.com. My email's there, and you can just ask me any questions that you have. Make it a great day. Hello, this is Dr. Osborne. In a recent survey, participants were actually asked what they found to be the biggest benefit to students who actually use the Wobble discs in their classroom. See, the top answers actually included amazing things such as better attention and focus, less restlessness, and actually increased participation. And the research is consistent with these answers. See, physical activity is actually correlated with higher academic performance, better overall health, and actually improved behavior. Students have found that short bursts of movement in the classroom contribute to better on-task behavior, and with the most improvement seen in children who were the least on task initially. And offering changes in positions and movement and opportunities throughout the day actually provide these short bursts of activity. So as a chiropractor and as teachers, we know that multisensory approach to learning contributes to better learning outcomes and attention and behavior. See, actually research supports the idea of the wobble cushion and dynamic seating options that can be used to improve attention and achievement in students, and in students with attention and without attention concerns. Just as adults need to get up and take a walk around the room while they think and to brainstorm, kids also need outlets for moving and fidgeting during the school day. What this does is it engages the vestibular, the proprioceptive, the tactile systems, and kids get ready to learn. See, when kids are taught to identify and honor their preferences for movement, such as fidgeting and alternative positioning, they feel that their needs are actually being acknowledged, and they're actually contributing to increased engagement and motivation in the classroom, as well as an increased sense of community. And isn't that what we all want? an increased sense of community between the patients. Alternative seating can also promote core strength and balance and coordination and posture. Simply by being exposed subtle movement experiences through the day, such as bouncing lightly on the disc while they read or rocking back on the wobble disc during videos, kids' bodies learn to make slight adjustments in position to actually catch themselves from rolling too far to one side. They build core strength by having to hold themselves upright on an unstable surface, and they actually build coordination by transitioning in and out of different seating options. And the benefits just don't end there. See, allowing kids some control over their seating options actually turns them into problem solvers who can identify how they're feeling and choose what works best for them. I guess the bottom line is this: kids simply aren't meant to sit still all day long. None of us are. Maria Montessori stated that her observations of the negative impact of kids sitting in chairs when she said, "When chairs are used, children are not disciplined, but they're annihilated." See, that's what this is about. This is about allowing kids to be kids. And so in the next video, we're going to be showing you how to actually perform simple wobble exercises in the classroom. One of the goals of the simple wobble exercises is it'll increase blood flow to the child's brain and increase activation, which will actually work on the prefrontal cortex, which will allow them to actually focus better as they go throughout their day. Make it a great day. Dr. Osborne, what I want to do is take a moment to actually show you how to use the wobble disc. So what we talked about earlier is that short bursts of activity will actually have the greatest impact. Typically find every 30 to 45 minutes in a classroom setting is the ideal timing there. Sometimes if a child's like watching a video, sometimes if they're just sitting there reading, just the general rocking will allow them to actually experience just a calming of their nervous system there as they're performing these tasks and actually focusing them in and working on their attention. But what we do find is that sometimes what we need to do is at times such as just before testing, like it's going to be coming up next week, we want to have a procedure that they can go through and something consistently that they can do, because kids like patterns. And so what I'd like to do is teach you a pattern so that you can implement it in your classroom on a regular basis there. This pattern is designed to actually stimulate the entire spine. And what's important about when we do a wobble such as this, it increases blood flow to the blood flow to the brain. It also increases activation to the brain, because you have to remember your brain is just a battery, and when you move it actually powers up the battery there. So when a child's been moving, they actually get charged up and ready to perform a task. The other thing that it does is it actually increases cerebrospinal fluid flow through the nervous system, which actually bathes the brain and actually nourishes the brain. So in the first thing that you're going to notice that when you give the kids the wobble disc, they're going to do something like this. Yeah, they're going to go a little bit crazy and they'll probably get a little bit excited. So what we want to be able to do is teach them that it's actually a tool for them to use, for them to get smarter and for them to get better grades and for them to be able to perform better on their tests. So we wanted them to see it as an asset, not a toy. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to work in all ranges. The more ranges that we have as far as spinal motion, the more of an impact that it'll have. The more ranges that we have, the stronger their core will become. And so the first one that we're going to do is we're going to have them wobble front to back. So what they're going to do is they're just going to come forward like this, and they're going to come back looking up at the ceiling. Forward and backwards. Now a couple of the things that they have a tendency to do, keep going, is they'll have a tendency just to move their hips, and they'll be doing something like this. Well, what we want to have them do is the whole spinal range of motion. So we want to make sure we get their head up and down. What's interesting is one of the studies I've recently read that said that the average child spends about 5,000 hours a year with their head down in this position there, which is devastating for spinal structure and devastating for posture, but it's also devastating to the spinal cord, because when they're in that position, it actually stretches the spinal cord and puts their body immediately under stress. So that's one of the big keys of when they're doing this. We want them to come back into this position because it's the opposite of how they spend their day. The next thing that we want to do is we're going to have them go side to side. And so typically what we like to do is we like to have them go side to side, dropping their hands down and bringing their head all the way over from side to side like this. Now, one of the reason why I say keep your hands down, because you know kids as well as I do, once their hands start going like this, they're going to fall off the wobble disc. So it'll keep them stable and straight while they're doing that. Another option that they can do is they can actually put their hands behind their neck, as they get better at it, and they can actually go side to side in this manner. Big key though is we don't want them to be slumping while they're going side to side there, because what that does is that puts a lot of stress on the neck. The third exercise that we want to have you do is we want to have them give themselves a big hug, almost like an Aladdin. If you pretend they're like a genie or something like that. And what they're going to do is they're going to turn their head all the way to the side, turn their head all the way back to the other side, and really feel that stretch there. We want them to tighten up their stomach muscles as they're going from side to side. And we find that there's a couple different options and ways to be able to perform this. Initially, in the initial phases, just slowly going through the motions, and just so that they can actually develop a body awareness is going to be a big key. The second option is as we get better at it, as we get more coordination and as we get more control, what we really want to do is we actually want to increase the speed at which we do these, because that'll actually increase the strength, but it'll also increase the stimulation to the brain and regulating that prefrontal cortex. It'll increase blood flow throughout the whole body, reducing the stress response also. And so initially what we'll have them start doing is we'll have them just go down nice and slow, up and back. Typically what we like to do is they like to count down. So if they count from 1 to 20, as they do 20 reps there, maybe start at 10 and work your way up to 20. Ideally a 20 is the magic number. So we would have them do 20 forward and backward, 20 side to side, 20 rotations, and that should take about 1 minute to 2 minutes for them to be able to do there. But what it's going to look like, this would be the initial speed. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just like that. As they get better, we're going to try to increase the speed. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can actually, if you have a metronome in your classroom, you can actually use the metronome to just like have a pace. I would encourage you as a teacher to actually be doing the exercises with them because we always lead by example. If they see you doing it, they're going to do it there. So that's why I like a metronome. You can download one for like free metronomes on your iPhone, and it'll just give that nice cadence there. So when we're going side to side, it'll look like 1, 2, 3, 4, making sure they bring their heads all the way over like that. As they get better, we're going to go a little bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The last one, we're going to start off real slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. As we get better, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great. So if you have any questions, feel free to go to our website, www.drtjosborne.com. That's drtjosborne.com. Once again, my name is Dr. Osborne. If you have any questions, my email's on the website. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity for letting me be part of making this world a better place. And I want to wish you great luck on your tests coming up there. I know you guys put your heart and soul. I come from 4 generations of teachers, from my grandmother all the way to my sisters and my wife. I know what you go through on a single day, and that's why I love you and I appreciate you. Make it a great day.